My name is Emory Allen, and I'm a creative professional with about 20 years experience and a father with about 20 months experience. Over the course of my career, I've done everything from illustration to coding to UI, UX, lettering, graphic design, motion design. I've kind of finally settled on commercial frame-by-frame animation. This talk does come with a disclaimer. The following views and opinions expressed in this talk are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the family which he represents. Which is to say, even though my wife and I are obviously raising the same child, we don't always experience things the same way, so I just want to be clear, I'm not speaking for her or any other parent, really. So what is imposter syndrome? IS for short. For me, it's that thing that grabs me when I'm feeling really confident and says, you know, there are actually a lot of people that are way better than you, and why don't you get a real job? Makes it kind of hard to work with that voice in my head all the time, so I had to learn how to manage it. The first step was focus. At the top, I mentioned all the jobs I've had over the years, but you can't really become a great swimmer if you only dip your toe in the shallow end of the pool. I had to pick something. Maybe that something picked me. Either way, for me, it's frame-by-frame animation. Now that I was no longer trying to do every aspect of every job, I had to learn how to trust people. It's okay if I'm not the best graphic designer in the room. It's okay if I don't build the best websites. That's what teams are for. We support each other, and we're all the better for it. As a side effect of focus and trust, I found that feedback over time has become a lot more useful. The more that my clients understand what I have to offer, the more focused their feedback becomes. It's no longer about the size of the logo or the color of the blue. More often than not, it's the constructive tool that we know feedback should be. I've had to let go of perfection, because I can't even define for you what that means. Is there a perfect line weight? A perfect walk cycle? No. At the end of the day, people really just care about emotionality, whether it's expressed in your work or in what it's like to work with you. Now that I was comfortable in my career and I had my IS under control, I had to ask myself, what's next? Do I move to a bigger city, change careers, go into entertainment animation, which is kind of its own thing and would mean I'd have to start over? Well, luckily for me, the answer to what's next came in the form of a baby, specifically my baby. When I found out my wife was pregnant, I was so excited because the answer to what's next was no longer subject to just kind of whatever I was feeling that day. It had to pass the does this help the family test. Should I change careers? Only if it helps the family. But you have to be careful what you wish for because those first 6 weeks were the worst of my entire life. No sleep, lots of crying for me and the baby. Our family doctor actually told us that it's normal to be in survival mode right now. Can you imagine? We wanted a baby and we got a zombie apocalypse?
Another late night at the office, hitting the club, caring for a baby. You need sleep. Because when you snooze, you win. Sleep. Get some.
I made that with my 5-week-old newborn in my lap while I was at my computer. And that was my first sign that I was in real trouble because expectation was not meeting reality. I thought my life's focus would kind of be like a single bar. Mostly baby, a little bit left over for career, but in reality, I had 2 equally important and full bars. In my career's defense, it was here first. So that raised a lot of questions for me, like, am I ready for this new job title, father? If I love animation so much, will I even have enough love left over for a kid? If I work for an hour, am I actually stealing an hour of quality baby time? And why did the nurses even let me leave the hospital with this thing? That's when my old friend IS came knocking. Imposter syndrome for long. There are developmental checklists, there are books you can read, there are arguments you can have with your spouse, but there's no real measure of what it means to be a good father. You can't just line up a bunch of dads and go, that's the one. He's got it figured out. At first, I had no idea what I was doing with a child, so I had to focus on what I did know, which was how to cook, how to clean, do the dishes, the laundry. I figured that anything that I was doing to make it easier for my wife to be a mom meant that I was at least headed in the direction of good dad. Again, I had to trust people. At first, I didn't want anyone other than my wife or I to hold the baby, see the baby, smell the baby. Everyone just forget I have a baby, okay? But now she goes to daycare for 40 hours a week, and I have no idea what she does during the day. But I do know that she comes home happy. And yes, the feedback was brutal at first. Over time, it does get better. I started to anticipate her needs. She started to understand what I have to offer. For example, she knows mom is the fun one and dad is the one that can reach the cookies on the high shelf. I just wish all my problems could be solved by cookies. And again, perfection, I don't even know what that means. Does it mean that she never cries? Does it mean that when I'm driving and it's close to nap time that I shouldn't turn the radio up really loud and shout, don't go to sleep, because if she goes to sleep in the car, it will ruin her nap. So, what's next? I actually find myself asking that question a lot less these days because I'm more concerned with what's now. My baby is growing up so fast, I just don't want to miss it. Besides, as a creative parent, I can find clever ways to combine my love for my career and my kid.
Aww. Aww.